Good afternoon. You're joining us at the City of Madisonville City Hall, and I want you to know this will be the final conference for the City of Madisonville. We will refer all further questions to the NTSB. I want to introduce you some of the people that are here with us. I have from the Madisonville Police Department, we have Chief Herbert Gilbert, and we have Captain Richard Morris in the back, and we have Detective William Goodwin back here, and Sergeant Max Wilson. From the Madisonville Volunteer Fire Department, we have Chief Tom Jones. Also here from Tatum, we have the District Coordinator Ponch Gonzalez and the Madison County Emergency Management Coordinator Shelley Butts. I also want to take this time to thank all of our local, state, and federal partners with their support, local EMS providers and all the air medical units that transported, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and all of their support services. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to John Brennan with the NTSB.
Good afternoon. I arrived yesterday on scene, yesterday afternoon, to conduct the on-scene portion of our investigation. The on-scene portion of the investigation focuses on the aircraft and examination of the wreckage. There will be further study done into the flight path that we have already obtained from the FAA. We'll be looking into the pilot's background and things like that, but this first phase was focused on examining the wreckage. So we've completed that today, and the wreckage, as I understand it, has been moved from the airport, but the examination of the airplane focuses on examining the control system, the engine, the different parts of the airplane to see if there were any anomalies that were not caused by the impact. And we did not find any anomalies caused that were existing prior to the impact. We still have a lot of work to do. We have to look into the pilot's background, things of that nature. Our investigations generally take about, for an accident like this, take about 6 months to 1 year to get the final report. There are 3 phases to the investigation that the public sees. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, but the 3 phases the public sees are the release of the preliminary report, which comes out within about a week or 10 days of the accident, and it details the facts and circumstances as we know them at that time. The second phase of the investigation is the issuance of the factual report, and as the name implies, that covers all the facts and circumstances that we've gathered to detail those facts for the report. And then the final phase is the issuance of the probable cause of the accident. So at this point, we've completed the examination of the airplane. We're going to focus on all those other aspects that I've mentioned.
And I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. I'm with the City of Madisonville. I'm the city manager as well as the airport manager.
So are there any questions?
Are there any updates of the victim's status at this point that you guys can share?
NTSB, we focus on the accident investigation itself. As far as any information concerning the victims or their status, that we don't release that information.
Has there been any excessive damage at the airport? You also said that y'all cleaned up the scene. Is there any damage that may have been occurred at the airport, like whether it's on the ground or anything like that? Could y'all expand on that?
So the airplane hit trees and terrain just south of the runway. It hit first tree strike was just south of Grant Road, and then it continued across the road and came to rest on airport property.
Do you know how tall the trees are?
I don't at this time. I've taken pictures with scales to look at that later, but I don't know the exact height of the trees at this point.
Do you have a flight plan at all from where they were coming from, were they headed here, or any of that information?
What I can tell you is that the examination of the wreckage, the flap setting was in the full flap position, which is a landing configuration flap, so it does appear that the airplane was landing at Madisonville. The airplane departed from an airport in South Texas. I can't recall at this point what airport that was. But we have the entire flight path of the airplane, so we'll be taking a look at that.
There was a gap, I guess I can say, is that the pilot was originally supposed to land at around 11:55 Sunday evening, and then the crash occurred around 1 a.m. if I'm correct. Do y'all have any reasons as to where that gap occurred? Because he was supposed to be landing a little bit before midnight instead.
I'm not aware of any gap. As I mentioned, we do have the entire flight path of the airplane, so we'll be taking a look at that as speed. That flight path will have its speeds, its altitudes, all of that information. So we'll be taking a close look at that.
Do you know how many seats were in the airplane?
The airplane was configured for 6 seats,
Okay.
Is that
including the pilot.
Okay. Do you know if they were wearing seatbelts at all?
It does appear that the occupants were wearing seatbelts based on our examination.
Including the pilot?
The pilot, there is a question there. The buckle for the seatbelt was unbuckled. The belts did not appear to be stretched. Some of the belts in the rear appeared to be stretched from the impact. So we don't know positively if the pilot was wearing a seatbelt, but it appears that the other occupants were.
Is there any information about the pilot's history that you guys know at this point that you can share?
As I said, the focus right now is on the wreckage. So we will be looking into requesting records from FAA for the pilot's training, his history, and things like that. We did find some pilot logbook records in the airplane, but they were not current. They did not come to the current date.
Do you know if the pilot owned that plane or?
The pilot, what I can say is that the address on the registration was matched what the pilot's address was. The name does not match
So you said obviously in this preliminary report, what you guys look at is the wreckage. And as far as it goes right now, it was the impact that killed the pilot, not or I guess caused the crash, not failure of any engine or so.
Yeah, the examination of the wreckage looks for deficiencies in the aircraft itself. Based on what we see, we didn't see any deficiencies in the aircraft. So the other aspects of it, whether pilot, weather, things like that, we'll take a look at that stuff as the investigation goes on.
And this is for the police chief. Is there anything on your guys' end that you guys continue to investigate, or is this completely handed off to DPS at this point?
It's completely headed off and into SB. So this is where we stop.
I was told by NTSB and FAA that y'all would be the ones or our local law enforcement would be the ones to give us any updates on victims. Do you guys have any updates, just as far as condition-wise?
Not at this time.
And who would we be able to speak to on the updates of the victims?
Well, at some point in time, we will find out what the update is. At this point in time, we don't have any updates.
Do we expect to get one at some point today?
We could check to see if we could get an update.
Do we have any records of how many crashes, if any, have happened at the Madisonville Municipal Airport?
I don't have that information right now.
Anyone?
To my knowledge, there have not been any.
And then Chief, again, just a real quick question. Do you guys know or can share if there's any relation between the pilot and the people that were in the plane with him?
No, we don't know that information at all.
Is the city airport back open, or will it be closed?
We have a NOTAM right now for it to be closed until 8 a.m. We'll make a decision later if it needs to be extended.
So y'all talked a little bit about y'all's preliminary work investigation. Now you're moving on to the next phase.